Hey everyone, this is Tim Wright. Welcome back to the Yellow Cohen Research Channel. So what I wanted to do was show a little bit of the work that I'm doing, because it's, to say the least, it's profound and never been done before. So I know that sounds like a big claim, and I'm sorry to say so. What we got is a manuscript from the Bibliothèque Municipale Grenoble, hope I said that right, that I have worked with and put into English. So it has never been seen before. I wanted to show you it, and then after we go through it, you'll see the difficulty of the writing, and I'll tell you the method I use to do this so you can do it yourself. And if you're looking here, you're probably seeing that we got the PDF up. Um, this is 4127, which is the new Cohen instruction, by Amadou, but it's actually titled Du Vevel nous accordio la grâce de terre notre conducteur, which is God will give us, according to grace, our conduct, blessings, basically. But it's a new instruction, so you can see that we got a bunch of manuscript here. I mean, this is 144 pages. Some of them are blank, okay? So you'll see that this is the kind of document that I was working with. Um, and it has a lot of illustrations. One of the things I like about the illustrations is it talks about the illustrations. It's like, I don't know if it was Saint Martin, but the copyist went on for like 4 or 5 pages, and then all of a sudden puts an illustration into the document. So what I read from Dominic Clarambeau is that this document is actually in the tonality of Abbe Fournier. So you'll see recently Michael Osborne has translated Abbe Fournier's first volume. What they're saying is this is a continuance of that conversation. Uh, and the reason why I wanted to show it to you is it's a really good document. Um, and the first part of the document is kind of annoying, just to let you know. It's a very sermonesque. It has the modality of the doc is very preachy. So anyway, this is the original manuscript. We'll go through the translation, and I'll show you what I came up with. Uh, but here's the original manuscript. It's basically handwritten French for 140 some odd pages. So that is something that I'm really proud about because to this date, no one has done the work on that at all. It just was left at the Grenoble Library for researchers. And Dominic Clarambeau saw it, and he talked about it on his website, which I love, Philosophique Inconnue. And then Amadou put it in some of the just literally unobtainable journals of the spirit of the of being, the spirit des choses. But it's like impossible to get those documents. Now Derby was supposed to release them in a large book, but I haven't found it. So maybe someone out there can tell me about it, plans to do so. Anyway, those are unobtainable. So I went to the library. I asked an archivist to give me a reproduction, and I was lucky enough to get the manuscript 4127, or New Cohen Instruction. Now, New Cohen Instruction is supposedly the dynamics of the inner way. And so I read it with a little bit of, criticism. at first, because if you, we'll take a look at the document, you'll see what I'm talking about. It is heavily, I call it the Sermon on Resurrection, which is part one, Sermon on Virtues, and the diagrammatic representations of these virtues. So for multiple pages, he goes on, and whoever he is goes on and on and on. And it says in the first footnote that this is the title after reading that this section could have, is the Sermon on Resurrection. Now they wanted to call it the Treatise on Resurrection, but I don't think it should be called that. And the reason why is I'll show you. The Sermon on Resurrection is kind of the preemptive portion of this document that tells you and frames to you the information that it gives you. Amadou praised this document in the end of his analysis of the Elocoan and Fonzie. He stated that an appropriate name for the manuscript would be the Treatise on Resurrection, as a possible continuance of Abbe Fournier's treatise. Dominic Clarenbeau feels that the tonality is similar. But after reading it, I call it the Sermon on Resurrection. You'll see why. There's a lot of language in here about Jesus. There's a lot of language that seems very Manichaean, where you have one side that's dark and one side that's light. And due to your choice of behaviors, you either align more with the dark or align more with the light. So that's what those images were about. What was interesting, though, is he was saying that there were so many portions of it that it was hard to like classify it, basically. And I don't have a script, so I'm just going off of memory and my research. Now, I call this second part the technicalities of the resurrection, or the body of glory. Now, this is the part at around page 30 that gets really, really good. And it references the universal table, which is, as you know, the document in the Treatise of Reintegration of Beings, which I happen to have here in Amadou's version. I'm going to lose my spot. I was also doing a commentary on Amadou's version. Let me not lose my spot. I don't want to have to overdo things. So you'll see here that this, you can't really see it. It's too bright. Anyway, it's the table, the universal table, and it was in Amadou's book, and it's in the Treatise of Reintegration. But that was something that I noticed, is that they talk about the universal table pretty extensively in this document. It was on page 8. Now, I'm not finished with this yet. I just wanted to let you know of my excitement of finding the document, getting it into English, finally transcribing it, translating it, and now I'm going through it and parsing it out and looking at it. There's illustrations and stuff, as you saw in the original document. So I might publish this. I'm not sure if it'll be publicly available, but I wanted to make it publicly available. And the reason why is because the document talks about an operation. Those who know, they'll know. It's basically like, if you know, you know. He talks about an operation here that is for 7 days. Now, it doesn't specify the equinox, but it definitely talks about 7 days. It says it takes 7 days to align yourself properly, which you saw in one of those diagrams, with the 7th day, which are 6 days. And those are the six thoughts that are depicted in some of the Elocoan nomenclature. So what I saw that was very interesting, though, is it says these 6 plus 1 steps to traverse should be understood as the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit. It names it. So the process of reintegration is talked about to its completion in this document. Very, very profound stuff. Um, and I call it the 7-day operation for bread analogy, because it does actually say operation. It talks about operation. I might be getting excited here because basically what it does is it tells you the result of the work of the equinox for the Rokwa, the person who does the 7-day op. The only person authorized to do the 7-day op is the Rokwa, not the Grand Architect degree or the Master Elukoan degree. You have to actually be Rokwa to do the 7-day operation. But most people that I know of don't do the 7-day. They do 1 day, and also there's difference. I mean, I've explored this stuff pretty in depth, and I'm looking to it from other traditions to try to find out more information. Because unfortunately, you have to be a Rokwa just to even learn about the 7-day op, and it's not very well documented and given. But it basically says the bread. Once this bread is broken down, there's the seed that can refeed thousands and thousands of people. And it uses this metaphor as what happens to you after you do the operation. And it literally goes through 7 iterations. And it's not the alchemical iterations, but it does talk about the 7 planetary heavens. I mean, even if it's mistranslated, there's so many references to it that it's impossible for it not to be so. So this goes through the dynamics of the 7 days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It goes through it extensively. So it talks about some of the inner metaphysics of the equinox operation, which isn't anywhere else. Even Martinez's letters to the Rokwa were not indicative of the metaphysics of the operation itself. It was just the instructions. They would just learn what to do, and then he was like, figure it out for yourself. One of my footnotes is, what a statement. And basically what this says, and I quoted this to some friends, is that independence is what causes us to be unenlightened. That our drive for independence is the drive that tries to make us more sovereign than we really are. And it goes into great language. I don't want to go on and on and on and read you the document because I'm probably going to publish it. But it's never been published before, never been translated or transcribed before. So it's pretty interesting that we're at a place where we have a document like this with technology and availability of resources. The Elukoan finally has the ability to step forward. Now, I know many people are going to look at it with a little bit of pessimism who know me and know how I did it. So I used a AI tool to work with the manuscript and give me the words. Then I used AI to translate the words. Someone out there might be like, well, yeah, but you really have to be French. And by all means, go do it yourself. If you feel qualified to do the work, I'm not trying to corner the market on the method. What I'm saying is that nobody has done a better job so far. And business law, they basically say that if you're going to criticize a product due to its manufacturing, due to its originated ideas, that some codes are not just you can go and talk crap about the product. well, I mean, you could say bad stuff. You can go to a tort claim and try to claim all these damages, but really what happens is they've done the UCC law in a way that if you don't have an alternative, your voice is basically not heard. You can't just say, well, this was faultily created and constructed and, it should have been done better, without presenting something better as a modality or methodology of improvement. And then they see it through an expert and everything. So if you want to put that effort out there, I'm not cornering the market, such as Amadou did. Amadou went to the library, basically. He got these kind of documents. He was native French, of course, but he took the documents, removed all of the BMG stamps, and basically claimed them as his rediscovery, gave no sources, told nobody where anything was, and started calling them his. I'm not doing that. I told you where it came from, and if you know how to get it, go get it, and then do the work yourself. But I'm pretty excited that we're seeing this because Novell Cohen Instruction has not been available. It was printed through CaraScript. So it has not been available for decades, and CaraScript isn't re-releasing it. If they did, I'd buy it, but it would still only be in French, so it's still not put into English. So this is the very first time that English readers will be able to see, even if it's a subpar version of because we know everybody does perfect translations out there, right, and doesn't have to re-release any editions. Even if it's a subpar translation, you're going to get the concept of what it is. And then, like I said, go get the document, render it better yourself. It's a pain in the neck to do, but if you want to do it, go and do it. I feel like anybody called to this work should be able to make the tradition evolve. And so that's the point, is that documents like this have been hidden, if even made available. I don't think 4127 has been made available to anyone. And like I said, if you had it from CaraScript in the 80s and you were lucky enough to get a copy, and you were lucky enough to make a copy, then maybe you and some private friends have it. But other than that, no one has this. And definitely, I don't know any organization that's translated it to English. Canada, America, French, England. I don't think any Cohen order has translated 4127 into English. I could be wrong though, because it's definitely, like I said, the metaphysics on the 7-day operation for the Rocroi. So this, I'd like to say, in the Treatise of Reintegration of Beings, there's a section that they say Martinez left undone. What I think happened is that it got too good, too technical, and he did not want leaking of this particular portion of the book. So after Saul, the book stops. It doesn't have anything else. I think this is the translation and portion of the book that is after Saul, after Paul. This is the Jesus portion. This is the Redeemer. This is the resurrection body. It's basically tied to the body of glory. Amadou said that this was the inner dynamic of the images that have been later shown to be the Prunelle images. Now, of course, if you have his CaraScript Angelique's book, you'll be able to read his commentary. I do not. I have the 2400 from its original sources, but I don't have Amadou's book. So if you want to drop those, I mean, I'll easily come back on a video and say I'm wrong. If it's of consequence to you, if this is something that you feel like strongly about, let me know in the comments. And I'll come back and say, you know what, I was wrong with the information that I had. This is what I had, but so-and-so, John 326 from Ohio, has told me that this is incorrect. So I'm not afraid to say that because I'm a real researcher. And the meaning, I'm not a hierophant. I'm not a mystagogue that wants to take you and recruit you into some kind of hidden order or hidden society for my own gain, which is what was said about Martinez, that he had this kind of agenda to pull people in and not let them go for his own gain. Now, I read some of the letters that state these kind of things. One was from Grainville to Willermo's when he was talking about some of the dynamics of him being either secretary or high official in the Rocroi selection process in France, while Withermose was somewhere else. I think Grainville was in Paris at the time, and the point is that he was writing about Martinez, but they all knew he wasn't. Martinez wasn't like shucking people. They all knew what he was doing. They all knew he had a ton of debt, that he couldn't go anywhere. They all knew that he had personal monetary crises, and it was okay. What he was doing was dedicating himself to this work, and they felt that he should be compensated for it. Now, the statutes, not the Rocroi statutes, but the general statutes, they do have a little bit of a monetary slant to them. It looks like Martinez basically was like, I'm not going to instruct you unless you help me help you, and that's true. I mean, you gotta be able to sustain yourself through going to libraries. I mean, even now, I have friends who are researchers, scholars, and they have to fly from America to France to look at the documents, to know what they're looking at, to translate the documents. Then they have to have the connections to be able to go to the publisher and to be able to put these documents into context and then present them to the public. It's not an easy job. That's why I have the YouTube videos, and I want everyone to just be able to have access. But unfortunately, those who should have access don't, because there's a bunch of barriers, monetary barriers, initiatic barriers, networking barriers, all kinds of barriers that are in front of them, and they can't get to this. So my job is to basically, I've talked to some, what do you want to call them? SIs is their very popular name. We don't want to call them by the real term of what SI means, but I've talked to people who are at the head of these kind of organizations, and they told me anything that you can get in a library should be available to anybody. So that's why 4127 is going to be made available to anybody. I'll put it on my Lulu if you want to buy it, but it'll also be on my academia.edu once I get it formatted for free. You could just go there, grab it. If you like it, incorporate it. If not, don't do anything with it. Just leave it alone. But I think every single manuscript in the library should be made available to anybody who has the desire to see it. And as I go through this work, that's exactly what I'm doing. I've also worked with 4121, which is the treatise on forms, which was not available to anybody anywhere ever. It had never been published in full. I have that. 4128, which is the prayers and work of the people who were doing that kind of prayer and work, and the Cohen grades, which are 5, 6, 7, and then Grand Master Cohen, which is 8, or Grand Architect. Those have been transcribed. We have 4129 already, and we have 4124, which are secret instructions and secret explanations. So we're getting to the point where the entire series of letters and documents and manuscripts from Prunell at the BMG are being made available to the public. You just got to know where they are, what they are, who published them, and everything else, and then have a little bit of money to buy it. So anyway, that is my presentation of 4127. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope when the book is available, you'll go get it, or at least take a look at the one that's going to be on Academia in a couple of weeks. But for that matter, I'm glad I got to show you it and give it a good overview. I'll probably put the Prunell images in it, since those are not copyrighted by Lewis Masonic. I can put those in there, and then as you read through the document 4127, or the new Cohen instruction, as Amadou called it, the treatise on resurrection, and what I'm calling the sermon on resurrection, and then part two is the instruction on resurrection, or the body of glory. So I hope that that interests you if you are a enthusiast researcher. And until we talk again,